What is up, beautiful people? Again, the age-old saying, right? My people suffer for a lack of knowledge. So what is this knowledge that we are lacking? Well, it's the knowledge of ourselves, of who we are, right? Know thyself is that huge Gnostic saying, age-old saying, that don't go against your own chemical cellular affinity. Don't go against your own biology. Don't go against your own anatomical makeup, because the moment you go against your own code, there's going to be repercussions. So the moment you go against your cells, your body will start to decompose and break down and will not be regenerative. So again, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing thou hast forgotten the law of God, of thy God. I will also forget thy children. So notice how when we stray away from God, when we stray away from what our DNA dictates and mandates, right? However it is, whether it's through, something they put into your shoulder, whether it's through food, whether it's through living practices, whether it's through the consumption of content, and obviously food. Whenever we put in code, which is knowledge, whenever we take part in knowledge that is not what God intended for us to take in, that which is evil, that which is, because evil, all evil really is a corrupt file of knowledge, is corrupted information. So the DNA cannot function with corrupted information. So we also see here, therefore my people are gone into captivity, because they have no knowledge, and their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with thirst. So let's go more into depth. So yeah, I found this much more. There's another one going around. There's another chart, carnivore, omnivore, herbivore, frugivore, human anatomy chart going around that's a little bit shorter. But I recently found this one, so I just thought we should go through of a few things that conclusively show that man is a frugivore, right? That man is meant to eat things that are the quickest to be digested, right? Because again, there's a direct correlation with, I was just saying this to a guy whose father has 4th stage lung cancer, saying, you got to look at it real simple, right? Digestion is directly linked, or I should say the difficulty of digestion is directly linked with the amount of disease one has, the amount of dis-ease one has. So the less digestion is going on, the less dis-ease one is going to feel, right? The less amount of effort that is going into digestion. And so again, it just happens to be that fruit has the least amount of effort required in digestion. The assimilation of those nutrients and that electrical capacity in the fruit is so above and beyond anything else. The frequency of that fruit is so high that it doesn't even compare to any other foods, whether it's leafy greens, whether it's meat, whether it's processed foods, whether it's fake sugars, whether it's dairy, whether it's eggs. Fruit is the top of the food chain for humans. And again, here, anatomy says it all, right? The vision, omnivores, carnivores do not see in full scale. Frugivores, herbivores see in full scale. Brain chemistry, omnivores and carnivores are fueled by fats. Herbivores, frugivores, humans are fueled by glycogen, meaning they have to take in meats and break them down into sugars before they can even assimilate the meat. So here we have a myth busted again, that if you consume meat, or if you consume quote unquote protein, you get that same protein. That's not true, right? when the protein enters your body has to go through immense digestive stress to break down that which is not supposed to be recognized by the body into a sugar formula that it is recognized by the body. In contrast, fructose, unlike even glucose, fructose just directly goes in. It's a complete match with the body, with the human body, right? So there is no effort involved. And because there's no effort involved, there's no digestive stress. Therefore, the chi, the energy, right, the flow in the body can be sent out and targeted into other parts, other necessary tasks, other forms of cell cannibalization. I don't really like that word, but basically it means eating up the dying and the weak cells, right? When we have immense digestive stress, there is no time for the body to clean up dying and weak cells. There's no time for the body to move the lymphatic waste out of the system. Therefore, there's going to be a pileup of waste. There's going to be a pileup of degenerative cells, and therefore there's going to be no healing. There's going to be cancer or the thousands of other diseases that allopathy names, which is coming from one cause: consumption or a lifestyle that is not conducive to one's anatomy, to one's DNA, to one's purpose, to one's code that's given by creator, originator. So circadian rhythm, I mean, omnivores and carnivores sleep 18 to 20 hours. I've heard 16 too in the 24-hour cycle. Why? Because it takes so long to process all that junk, all that dead meat, right? There's so much effort involved with processing heavier foods. Whereas you see fruitarians, you see breatharians, or people who are on just juice, they barely need to sleep. Why? Because they barely need to digest. Once you start the vegetables, you sleep a little bit more. Once you start the grains, you sleep even more. Once you start the meat, you sleep even more. And then, of course, the processed food, you're basically not even awake throughout the day. You're drunk because your fuel is wrong. So again, we see here that herbivores, frugivores, and humans sleep 8 hours. So that can be even cut down even more. The mouth opening versus the size of the head. Carnivore and omnivores are large. Why? Because they have to grab another animal, right? Or they have to be able to grab the back of a neck of another animal to kill it, to suffocate it, to cut off the oxygen supply, right? Or to stop the blood flow. And they have to be able to rip it, like think alligator, or think, I know are they mammals? No, they're reptiles, sorry. I know they're not mammalian, but think how crocodiles and alligators have huge mouths. The same with the shark, right? Huge mouth in order to be able to, bite into another animal, another being. But herbivores and frugivores, they don't have that big of a mouth because they're not meant to always be consuming these meats, especially not herbivores and humans. So jaw type, lower jaw embedded inside upper jaw, whereas herbivores and frugivores, upper jaw sits on the bottom jaw. Jaw angle, not expanded. Maybe we should even start drawing. No, it doesn't work. Whatever. So yeah, upper jaw. Jaw angle, not expanded, not expanded. Whereas herbivores and frugivores are expanded. Here, let's see. Jaw joint location on the same plane as the molar teeth, on the same plane as the molar teeth. Above the plane of the molar teeth when it comes to frugivores and herbivores. Jaw motion and mastication, right? So carnivores are meant to shear the meat. and they swallow, they gulp, gulp, gulp. See, necessity of food, of chewing the food, right? And even the facial muscles are made to allow the gulping of food. Why? Well, and then again, we'll see later that their intestines are short. Why? Because they have quick processing. Because it's so hard to digest meat. It's basically impossible to digest meat. It's just a quick, absorption and pooping out, right? You can't, because it's so difficult to digest animal cells, right? It's just tearing it apart so that it can just be put into the digestive system without adequately breaking it down before it goes in. Whereas what? Frugivores and herbivores, great lateral forward mobility for chewing leafy green plants and grasses, right? It's not just for cutting it up. We do have incisors, but not on the level of carnivores, not on the level of meat eater, right? So, yeah, great lateral and forward mobility for chewing fruit, seed, nuts, and vegetation. And again, herbivores have a much better system to break down grasses, to break down more, cellulose heavy foods. So there's another distinction, is that herbivores are more equipped to always be eating greens, whereas we have a tougher time with eating tough greens all the time. And obviously we have a very tough time eating meats. We have to cook them, we have to prepare them, we have to do all these extra tasks because we're not made to gulp the meat down like carnivores are, like omnivores are, right? Omnivores still have a crushing ability because they do eat, other things as well. They do eat plants as well. So, but again, just like the carnivore, they have no lateral or forward mobility in the chewing. It's mostly just ripping apart and killing. We are not made to kill. So again, they swallow, but they have simple crushing, omnivores do, just like dogs, right? They have the ability to eat fruit and other things, but let's see. The herbivore and the frugivore, and obviously the human, needs to chew its food much more extensively. So our Our anatomy is made as such. So you can see with the incisors, look, broad, flattened, and spade shaped for human and herbivore, whereas the omnivore and the carnivore is short and pointed. Canines, long, sharp, curved fangs for omnivore and carnivore. For the canines in the herbivores and the frugivores and the humans, rudimentary, short, dull, or blunted, right? When it comes to the monkey, it seems like, or the frugivore, it seems like some of them have long for defense, but humans definitely do not have long. They do not protrude beyond the level of the upper and the lower teeth, whereas omnivores and carnivores definitely do. It's a definite vampire tooth, So molars with the carnivore, sharp, jagged, blade shaped, right? So they're not even meant to be processing plant-based stuff as much or at all. And omnivores, of course, they have some flattened, but it's still very sharp. And then with the frugivores and the omnivores, very flat, modular cusps, and you can see a complex surface with the herbivore so that it can take in the extra the greens. So salivary gland size, salivary chemistry. Carnivores and omnivores have acidic chemistry, right? And they don't have that much salivary glands. They don't need to be producing constant saliva, whereas we break down foods even from the mouth a lot of the time. So we have large salivary glands, and our saliva is alkaline, whereas the carnivore and the omnivore, their saliva is already acidic. So again, let's see what we see here. Salivary enzymes, no carb digesting enzymes and lysosomes in the omnivore and the carnivore, whereas we do, the frugivore and the herbivore has carb digesting enzymes, like what? ptyalin, I don't know, ptyalin, I don't know how to say that. Stomach capacity, very important. Stomach acidity too. The carnivore and omnivore has an acidity that's lower than Coca-Cola. There's a pH of 1. It needs to be so acidic that everything that goes in just burns away immediately. Why? Because they're taking in meat. So it has to be a very, very low pH. Also, to protect oneself from all the bacteria and the bad bacteria and the parasites and the worms and the fungi and all this kind of stuff, to be able to, break all that down, because a lot of the times they're eating decomposed matter. They're eating rotting meat. Man is not made to eat rotting meat. Man has immense amount of parasites when he does choose to eat things that are outside of his category. So 60 to 70% of total stomach capacity, 60 to 70% of total digestive tract. So they can be taking in huge amounts, it seems. That's what it's saying, right? Whereas the herbivore can take in 30% of its total volume in the digestive tract, and the human and the frugivore can only take 21 to 27% of the digestive tract. And the herbivore and the frugivore all have pH of 4 to 5, which is very close to neutral. So much more weaker stomach acid. Length of small intestine, 1.5 to 3 times body length for a carnivore. Omnivore is 3 times body length. Very, very short. They're not meant to be keeping these foods inside of their body for a long time. They're not meant to be fully digesting whatever is in their body for a long time. They just send it through. Again, because of the difficulty of digesting animal matter. Whereas herbivores have 20 times their body length in the length of the small intestine. Why? Because they're digesting all those grasses in multiple stomachs, which will come up later probably, right? So again, 20 times their body length. Ours is 9 times, divine 9 with the frugivores. Why? Because we're right in the middle. Too much grasses don't work for us, and meat obviously does not work for us. So fruit is perfect, is ideal. So colon type, the carnivore and the omnivore has simple. Colon type for the herbivore and the frugivore, and the human is complex. The length is also long for the frugivore and the frugivore and the herbivore and the human. And the colon shape is sacculated, and the colon chemistry is acidic. The opposite is true for carnivores and omnivores. The colon length is short, the colon shape is smooth. It looks like the omnivores is somewhat sacculated, somewhat more rough. And the colon chemistry for the omnivore and the carnivore is alkaline. The opposite of the herbivore, frugivore, and the human. The liver type for the carnivore is complex, with 5 distinct chambers, right? Proportionally 50% larger than the others. The bile is comparatively heavy. Can metabolate large amounts of vitamin A efficiently. Right? So can't convert, I forgot what this is. Something chain fatty acids, long chain. I don't know what I forgot what the L was. Can metabolize large amounts efficiently of cholesterol, right? So omnivore is similar in these realms, except for that the bile flow is comparatively moderate. Their liver size is proportionally larger than herbivores. They have a complex liver system, but the frugivore, herbivore, and human have simple liver systems, liver types. the size is relatively important and proportionally small liver when it comes to frugivores and humans. The herbivore has a slightly larger liver size than the frugivore and the human, while the omnivore has an even larger size, and obviously the carnivore has the largest size. So comparatively weak bile flow when it comes to frugivores and herbivores. And yeah, you can read. I'm not going to go through every single one like this because it might be a little bit tedious, but you get the idea. Other key factors is urine concentration for the meat and for the carnivore and the omnivore is extreme and acidic in chemistry, whereas the herbivore, frugivore, and human have alkaline urine. And the urinary concentration for the herbivore is very weak because, again, the carnivore and the omnivore is meant to be peeing out immense amount of nitrogen, acidic, inflammatory substances, while the human and the frugivore is not. So the digestive time, again, for the carnivore takes 2 to 4 hours because, again, they're just meant to pass it through. They're not meant to keep and hold all that digestive stress in their body for a long time. 6 to 10 for omnivores, 24 to 48 hours for the herbivore because, again, they have to go through all that cellulose and really spend a lot of time digesting whatever they're digesting. Whereas similar to the omnivore, if they're eating plant matter, we need 12 to 18 hours. We're in the golden zone again. We're in the middle. And also, guys, that ability to get the energy into the system quickly is related to intelligence, right? So the frugivores are often very highly intelligent because their ability to assimilate fruit, right? Assimilate fructose so quickly, assimilate energy so quickly into their body, right? They have such a high efficiency when eating, right? They don't take as long to digest as the herbivore. And at the same time, they're taking in a lot more than what the omnivore or the carnivore is doing with their selected food source. So there's a relation to that as well to our intelligence. So let's see. So yeah, let's go look at limbs. Has 4 paws with claws, the carnivore does. Has 4 paws with claws or hooves, the omnivore does. So again, they're made to be ripping things apart. Whereas the herbivore has 4 legs with hooves, but no claws, obviously, because they're not meant to be ripping into animal matter. And again, the frugivore and the human has arms with prehensile hands and feet. We do not have and we just have prehensile hands, but we do not have the necessary mechanisms to rip apart animal flesh, which is why we introduce these perverted forms of utensils to make up for the things that we lack for in our anatomy, to make the disgusting and the perverted assumption that we are supposed to eat things that we're not supposed to be eating. So let's see. So the omnivore and the carnivore has 100% covered in hair, while the herbivore and the frugivore has pores. So again, yeah, nails, sharp claws or blunt hooves for carnivore and omnivore, blunt hooves for the herbivore, flattened nails for the frugivore, blunt hooves for the herbivore, flattened nails for the frugivore, and flattened nails for us. So just like it came out in Isaiah 5:13, right? Therefore, my people are gone into captivity because they have no knowledge, and their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with thirst. We are dehydrated, and our cells are starving. And because of this, we cannot think, right? We're stuck in a system of an animal farm, of cattle cultivation. We are chattel because we don't even know what to eat. We don't even know the correct information to put in our body. Because if we realize that the correct information to put in the body is fruit, we would put an immense stress, no stress, we would put an immense attention and love towards cultivation of fruit. Mind you that unlike the cultivation of plants or most other veggies and other plants, fruits have basically no work involved outside of harvest, especially if they're cultivated in natural forms. So imagine if we just, as an entire world, as an entire human race, as a frugivore race, made seed balls with thousands of different fruit trees in them and threw them randomly so that the right ones can grow at the right places. And there was an abundance of fruit everywhere we go. Then people wouldn't have to toil and work for food and constantly be trying to eat nutrition that isn't being correctly formulated in the body, which causes disease, which causes illness, and which causes a state of always being hungry and unsatiated and always dehydrated from all these excess cooked foods and foods that we shouldn't be eating, always depleting the body, right? We would replenish the body if we return to what we were supposed to be eating. And if we replenish the body, if we replenish the code, if we replenish the DNA and safeguard that DNA, then we would not be able to be captivated. We would not be captive to these vampiric ideologies that are completely foreign to a human organism. So I think that's a pretty, undeniable conclusion to our anatomic structure, what our chemical capacity or our anatomical capacity can handle, what the structure of our body and our biology can handle, and why and who benefits from confusion, from having us eat things that we should not be eating, having us mimic the vampiric tendencies of those who feed off negative energy, pain, suffering, torture, killing, murder, so on and so forth. Man is a guardian. He's not a killer. He's not a murderer. But they're turning us into ruthless, profit-driven murderers. So take that message with a grain of salt, eh?